Good morning. I'm impressed to see so many people here on a Saturday morning. It's great to be here. So this all started a long time ago. Like, I'm not sure if many people are aware that Helium started back in 2013. So this picture is one of the very first pictures that I remember taking. That's Sean Carey and Sean Fanning. This was taken at NASA. And this was like really the first time that we got together to try and build what became Helium. We always had this vision of building a wireless network designed for sensors. That was always the original vision. And it took us a long time to get here. But not many people know that it started all the way back then. I had this conversation with Fanning, who I think some of you know founded Napster. We wanted to figure out how to do this in a different way than a traditional telco company. We didn't really know how to do that. And we tried lots and lots of different things. We ended up launching what is now this version of Helium back in 2019, actually right here, almost exactly 3 years ago. And it's been like a remarkable journey. Like, I think when we launched this in 2019, we weren't exactly sure how things were going to go. We had 150 hotspots in Austin. We only manufactured a few thousand of them. We weren't really sure how many people were going to buy these things. We were curious, like it seemed like an interesting idea to try and build it out this way. And then what's happened since then is we now have 65,000 cities, 170 odd countries. It is the largest continuous wireless network in the world. And it continues to grow at an incredible pace. And really thanks to all of you guys. Like we quite frankly, don't do a whole lot relative to the community, right? Like, you guys are the people building this and deploying it. And to see the growth of it has been absolutely incredible. One of the things which I feel like personally doesn't get enough appreciation and enough attention are the users of the network, right? Like, here's like some of the interesting and fascinating use cases. Some of them are upstairs, by the way, so you'll be able to see things like Viloc and NanoThings, and who else is up there? Seed is up there, CalChip, Victor, HiveMapper is downstairs. Drone Deck, which is doing fascinating package delivery with drones, which I absolutely love. So there are all sorts of fascinating use cases that the Helium network has enabled. And this was always the dream to some extent, right? Like, we wanted IoT to exist somehow. People had been talking about it for years and years and years, all the way back to when I can even first remember thinking about Helium, which was 2011. And so now that the network exists and is broadly available, now we're starting to see the applications and the use cases show up. So super excited about this part of things. I would definitely encourage you guys to spend time upstairs and downstairs looking at some of the applications and some of the use cases, because some of them are incredible. Like, M3 has a drone upstairs, which is kind of amusing to me, because one of the things that we did early on in Helium was fly drones around with sensors on them to see how far the coverage area would extend. So cool to see it kind of come full circle with an actual application. One other cool thing that's happening on Helium, which I think some of you are aware of, is that we have enabled roaming with other network partners, right? So there are companies like Senet and Tectena and Extelia and Actility that are other LoRaWAN networks that are now interoperating with Helium. Right, so they have applications, they have customers, so companies like Volvo and Cisco that are customers of Actility, for example, but using the Helium network and using the network that you guys have built. So this has been hugely successful. I think there's a lot more to come here, and we keep adding more and more roaming partners over time. So I can't stop laughing. This one is just a reminder of how vibrant and interesting and bizarre the community is, right? And so on our Discord, there are close to, I think, 200,000 people now in our Discord. Reddit is very active, but I try not to spend a whole lot of time there. But the community is, it's what makes Helium, right? Like, it is one of the most interesting communities in all of crypto. I think it probably has the most non-crypto native people involved, which to me is amazing, because it's much more about applications and use cases and useful things rather than DeFi speculation or things that I don't particularly understand. So I've loved interacting with the community. I think for those of you that are here that spend time on Discord, I spend a lot of time in there engaging with the community. It's fascinating to me. I love being part of it. I love the memes. So yeah, it's a great universe, and I want to always remind and be thankful for all of you guys for helping us get here. So there's been a lot of talk over the last 2 or 3 weeks about the future of helium, right? Like there's been a lot of changes proposed. We've been talking and promoting a lot about HIP 51, which we'll talk about in a second. But really, I think one thing I really wanted to make sure to get across was that IoT doesn't go away for us. Like we haven't forgotten about LoRaWAN. It's taken me a decade basically to like get to this point of like having what I think an actually useful, ubiquitous IoT network. We have no intention of like leaving it behind, and I wanted to like make sure to say that because I know a lot of people are concerned about that with all the discussion that's been going on. I am like incredibly excited about some of the stuff that's coming on the IoT network that we will be talking about in the near future. But there's plenty of like interesting and fascinating things coming. And I wanted to just like make sure to talk about this for a second and just be clear that we are not leaving LoRaWAN behind. We don't expect it to disappear. Like we're very focused on it. I'm very excited by it. I'm still like, it's still the baby for me, right? We're not abandoning it in any way. But did want to talk about HIP 51 for a second. So I think a lot of you guys know there is a process in the Helium network called the Helium Improvement Proposal Process, which is the HIP. And we borrowed this term from Bitcoin, who really started all of this. And this is how changes get proposed and made on the network. HIP 51 is a proposal that suggested a way of adding more network protocols to Helium, right? So it wasn't just an IoT network. It was potentially an IoT network and a cellular network and a VPN network and a Wi-Fi network and any kind of network. And this was really born from a conversation that I had with Tushar from Multicoin. I don't know if Tushar is here. Maybe he's back there somewhere. But we were trying to figure out like how to involve other protocols in the network without them cannibalizing each other too much. That was really the concern. The Multicoin team, along with some members of the community, I think JMF and Abai from our team, went away and came up with HIP 51, which is this proposal to build what is effectively, or what we've decided to call, a network of networks, right? And the idea here is that we want to figure out how to grow the pie, basically, right? The initial thing we did was we had this pie chart on the website, and everyone went nuts about it because apparently everyone thinks that LoRa is going to get 1.2% of the rewards. It's not. We changed it now. It's a picture of a small moon and a big moon. Like thought maybe that was a better way of like trying to get the point across. But the idea here isn't to try and create fixed slices for different protocols. That's not the idea. The idea is how do you allow multiple networks to like live in harmony with each other and add value to HNT? And I think HIP 51 does a very good job of this. The idea here is that different networks will have scores, effectively, based on how big the network is. So that's how many hotspots there are and how much data travels across the network. So at the start, obviously, the LoRaWAN network is enormous. It's like 850,000 hotspots. The 5G network is tiny. I think it's 2,000 or 3,000 hotspots, right? So something like 95, 96, 97% of the rewards in the network will still be going towards LoRaWAN until those numbers start to change. We expect other protocols to come into play. So there's a HIP, I think it's 64, which proposes to add Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi DABA team is somewhere. I definitely recommend finding them and talking to them. And we'll see more of these, right? We've been talking with the guys from Boring Protocol, who is a decentralized VPN, which for me personally is another one of those applications that I always wished existed. Like I'm very privacy focused, or try to be very privacy focused. I wish more people were on the internet. And decentralized VPNs, I think, are a really interesting application there. So each protocol will have its own, way of doing things, right? Like in the VPN case, for example, there wouldn't be a proof of coverage, right? Because it's not a coverage network. In the cellular case, it would be a very different type of proof of coverage from the LoRaWAN proof of coverage. And the idea here is to like sort of segregate these things and give them their own technology stack, give them their own tokens, give them their own governance effectively, because they're all going to operate in very, very different ways. So I hope you've all taken the time over the last few weeks, or those of you that are involved in the community, to kind of get into this and understand it. I'll remind again that it isn't a pie chart of 1.2% going to LoRaWAN miners, just in case anyone is wondering about that. But I'm super excited about this. The scale of telecom is so large. It is one of the few industries that I think you can measure in the trillions of dollars. And so to be able to like put a dent in it in any way and to sort of move forward in multiple dimensions, I think is incredibly exciting. IoT is a huge industry, but the combination of all of these is huger, right? And I think that's the way of thinking about it, and that's why we have the small moon and the big moon. So we should have launched with the small moon and the big moon. That was a mistake. So the first thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a new token for 5G called mobile. And this is going to launch in the next few weeks. Anyone who has a 5G radio will just start to earn mobile tokens. There's no proof of coverage system initially. Literally just having the 5G radio online will allow you to start earning mobile tokens. And that's going to happen in the next few weeks. While you're here, the first 100 people to buy either from Moso Labs or CalChip can get what I think are incredibly cheap prices on these things. So Moso is selling a indoor bundle for $9.99 for the first 100 people. And CalChip is selling for $15.99 for the outdoor bundle. So outdoor radios have much larger range, but they need to be mounted outside. They need to be mounted up high. So depends what you're going for, but this is all going to start in the next few weeks. So would strongly encourage everyone to like get on this bandwagon, to start building the cellular network in the same way that we started to build the LoRaWAN network 3 years ago. And mobile is going to really be the start of that. Later on in summer, we'll be adding more and more of the functionality that was described in HIP 51, which is all of HIP 51 is very big and very complicated, as I think you all know. It contemplates a lot of different things. We're not going to be able to implement it all in one go. We're going to like take a very piecemeal approach to it. So mobile is the first step. Then I think in August we will add IoT, which is the token for LoRaWAN, which is a controversial subject that I'm happy to talk about with anyone. And then later on, towards the end of the year, we'll hopefully get to the full functionality that was described in HIP 51. So definitely recommend going upstairs and downstairs and checking out the 5G offerings from CalChip and Moso, because it's a great way to get started, and I don't think you're going to see these prices again for a little bit. And that's it. So I wanted to, again, just to thank everyone for coming here and thank everyone that is part of the network for being along with us on this journey. It's been an incredible journey. I still can't believe the scale and the size of Helium and how we managed to get to this point. And it's really thanks to all of you people. So I wanted to say thank you all again for coming. Thank you for being part of the People's Network. And I hope to see you all growing the cellular and other networks over time.